go ahead and start with the warm up, and then we'll start class in 2 minutes time, right around 12:22 or so. And the warm up is it's one that's kind of related to my own interest in your college plans, and you guys have seen these before, so start with that, and we'll go from there. All right, welcome back, Celine. Welcome back, Andrew. Welcome back, Joanne, Jaden, Charmaine. Welcome back, Maya. Welcome back, Adrian. Welcome back, Kenneth, Wendy, and Reagan. Welcome back, Denise. Welcome back, Fiona. Fiona, if you got an A in your name. Welcome back, Taylor. Welcome back, Angie. Welcome back, Ruby. Welcome back, Christy and Alex. Welcome back, Rory, Karen S., and Andrew. Welcome back, Cam. Welcome back, Leslie. Welcome back, James and Hassam and Steven, Autumn, and Jacques. And welcome back, Russell. Okay. All right, and again, if you're just getting into the class, please do the warm up, and then we'll start from class. We'll start right around, I'll say 12:22 ish. Okay, I'm actually going to pull the warm up on the screen so you can take a look at what others have said. So this was the questions. I'm curious. Have your college plans changed at all since January? So it looks like four of you said yes, six of you said no, eight of you said sort of. I did hear from a few students yesterday that they got accepted into colleges. So very exciting time.
Oh,
Uh, yeah,
great.
this is right around when it starts to happen.
Yeah.
I saw him very much changed. I don't know if that doesn't look like a happy face. Okay. So let me just talk you through a couple of things before I turn the class over. So I have a couple of announcements. They're kind of the typical announcements that you all hear from me, and then we're gonna have our guest talk. Oh, and I actually misspelled your name, Estelle. That's not
Oh,
good.
no worries.
Um, and you all do have a scientist spotlight, and it's going to be due tomorrow by 5. Now, this one's a little different than some of the ones before, so I don't rush through it. I'm really curious to see what your responses are. You're going to see that there's two questions at the end that are way different than the ones before, and they're asking you to think ahead. So don't rush through them. Do take your time with them because I'm going to use some of that for way down in the line in the future, right? So I've been teaching for 5 years now, so I'm now reaching out to some students who actually had some interesting responses 5 years ago. I'll talk about that once
Wow.
the talk is done. Now, really quickly, the announcements from me are the following. Again, the scientist spotlight assignments due tomorrow by 5. It is one of the last ones, so we're only going to have right now tentatively scheduled two more talks through the course of the end of the year. Now, the other thing is, I think I mentioned this, but I wanted to just review it, recap it one more time. So, starting April 15th, everyone that's in California that's over 16 is eligible for a vaccine. So, just in case you don't remember like the details on how to sign up for that kind of thing, for the vaccine stuff, I put the resource document to the top of the Google Classroom. So definitely put this on your calendar. You really want to make sure that you get vaccinated to protect yourself, obviously, and then to protect family members as well. All right, and if you have questions about that, feel free to ask. You can do it by chat. And then the last thing, this is your last spring break. So one thing I forgot to mention, Estelle, they're all seniors. So
Okay.
everyone in this class
Oh,
is a senior.
wow.
So this is their last spring break. So enjoy it. Um, soak in all of the. You guys are old. You're not old, not yet. Um,
No,
yeah, not yet.
not by a long shot.
Okay, so that's it for me. Everyone, let's welcome Estelle. She's going to do her guest talk. Let me end my screen share, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, David. I am so excited to share with you and be in the scientist spotlight. And I want to thank David for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. And congratulations on what you've accomplished. You'll be graduating soon and going to college. And so that's pretty exciting. And it sounds like some of you have already been accepted. So that is just great. So, what I want to do is just share with you a little bit about my journey as far as it relates to my career in science. So as I know you guys have a copy of my bio, and also I've seen that some of you have looked at my LinkedIn profile, but I'm hoping as I talk with you today, you'll get a more upfront and personal review about my experience in the biotech industry. So what I want you to do is this is very informal. We're gonna talk about my experience, and if there weren't questions that I there were questions that I did not cover in my presentation. I would like you to ask those questions as well. So first I want to start off by saying, picture this. So you have a mad scientist in the lab testing a formula. This is similar to what happens with drug development. The mad scientist, though, is not really mad, but really smart, emerges out of the lab and says, ta-da, I have a combination that will work. Well, between the mad scientist, who's not really mad, and the testing in human beings, there are a whole lot of moving parts and departments who are involved. And each department, I'll be honest, think they're the most important. So I'm the one who gets everyone together to talk and make sure we have a coherent plan to move to the next stage. And this is what we consider a team. And when we look at the team, you can think of it as like a baseball team. You have some good pitchers, some runners, some hitters or catchers. And I'm the coach or the trainer who gets them all together so we can beat the other team. And in my case, the other team is Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. So when you look at my journey, I never thought I would move into science or even work up in science. I remember during my junior year, my mother suggested I take biology. I'll be honest, I didn't want to take biology. I thought, I don't want to cut up frogs. But if I be honest, I really enjoyed the class. And I decided to take advanced biology my senior year. After that, I decided to apply to UC Davis and major in biological science. And I know there was a question about my experience at Davis, and I'll talk to that at the end, but I'll just say for me, Davis was a very positive experience. It's very known for its science. And they really have a lot of different organizations and support groups to help you with that process. So I would say it was a really enjoyable experience for me. And I'm still connected to Davis as an alumni. I had the opportunity a few years ago, one of the programs I was in, it was the Biological Undergraduate Scholars Program, and they had their anniversary, and they got us all together who participated in this program to celebrate. And it was a good opportunity for me to actually go back and talk with people I hadn't talked to in years and just see what their experiences were like out of college. So I'll say again that for me, Davis was a good choice for me in terms of college. So again, when I look at my journey, my first biotech job out of college was at Chiron. Now, Chiron's no longer around. It was acquired by Novartis, which was in Emeryville, California. But during that time, the company was Chiron. And my first job was as a research associate in small molecule drug discovery. And that's where I really had the opportunity to learn about how drugs are developed. I was working in a group where we were actually working with chemists who were synthesizing compounds that would be tested in various systems, whether that's in cells and things like that. So that's where I really got the foundation of where drug development really started. And that was really exciting for me. And I also had a manager who I would say was very supportive. I was very young in my career, but when there were opportunities available, she was very influential in helping me to get to be a part of those projects. And when I look back, I think that's very important because we really, just from my experience, it's important to have people who are mentoring you, are really helping you to really grow and shine. And when I look back, I realized she was very influential in my career progression. And one opportunity that I experienced was the opportunity to lead a group of scientists in a department project, a process improvement initiative. And I will say this, though I didn't know at the time, was really my first exposure to project management because I had to actually be the one to really influence this team to complete a deliverable. And I'll be honest, that was really challenging. I'm trying to gather people who were so used to working in a lab and really helping them to understand how what we were working on was really going to help not only those working in a lab, but also to help our department as well. But I really enjoyed the experience, and I was thankful for my manager who gave me the opportunity to do that. though I really enjoyed working in a lab, about 8.5 years after that, I was getting a little bored and I wanted to do something different. And I started looking around at Chiron for other opportunities. There was an opportunity in development to work as a project coordinator. So I was in research and I was looking to move into something different. So I thought, why not development? But I'll say before I made that transition, I talked with people to figure out, what were opportunities in the company, what would be a great fit for me. And I thought this would be a great fit. I'll say one difference between research and development is research is usually the same day to day, but development is really much more fast paced. And I'll say for me, that was quite a bit of a learning curve. Not a bad one, it was positive. But again, I'll say just when I look back at my career trajectory, I see how I was able to make that transition and apply some skills that I learned from research into development, even though it was more fast paced. And during that role as a project coordinator, I had the opportunity to work with a team who were working on a trial for cystic fibrosis. Now, this was more on the clinical side. We already had the drug in the clinic, and we were late phase two, hoping to move into phase three drug development. So, in phase three, it's a much larger population, and you're focused more on the efficacy. And that's where I came in. I was able to help work with the team to coordinate some of those early activities across the clinical planning, as well as making sure that the drug got to the clinical sites. So that was my role as a project coordinator. But I want to share in that role as a project coordinator, one of the things that really hit home for me, the project we were working on was a drug to treat cystic fibrosis. And it really hit home because I have a family member who suffers from this disease. And this disease can be it can be very horrible, painful. And it's sometimes you don't have you have a shortened lifespan. And so for me, it was very rewarding and exciting to involve in a treatment that can not only help my family, but others as well. And I'll say that the drug actually got approved in Europe, which was pretty exciting for me. So shortly thereafter, I landed a job at BioMarin. And this is where I had this distinction of being the first project manager in a department called pharmacological sciences. And for this was a new role for the department. And my manager realized that they needed someone to lead a team as we applied to the FDA for permission to test a new drug to treat PKU. And I don't know if everyone's familiar with PKU, but it's basically individuals they are missing the gene or may be defective in reduce an amount of phenylalanine in your body. I don't know if you've ever read on the back of your gum where it says contains phenylalanine. Well, those who suffer from PKU aren't able to chew gum and they can't eat very many foods that have high proteins because it causes intellectual disability. And while at BioMarin, I had the opportunity to work with the team to actually submit what we call an IND, which is an investigational new drug application to test the drug in the phase one clinical study. And also while at BioMarin, I had the opportunity to lead a team in a really debilitating disease that affects the nervous system. And it also affects individuals as young as 2 years of age. One of the really positive things about working with this team is we were able to get this drug developed within 4 years, which is really remarkable. And one of the reasons we were able to do that was because we had a really cohesive team. And it was also a rare disease. And a lot of times when diseases are rare, when you work with the FDA, you're given a little bit more guidance and structure in terms of how you work towards approving a drug. So this was really, as I said, remarkable for our team. And it was really a great milestone, not only for our team, but for within our company. And for me working on this project, I was able to work from this project from early research to post approval. And that gave me the experience to see the entire drug development process from research to development, and also how what it involves in working with the Food and Drug Administration. And while at Bomberin, I attained my project management certification. And what that shows is that I have the leadership and skills to manage and direct projects and lead teams. And the reason I decided to do that, because I realized as I further my career that I really wanted to make sure I was looking at ways to show how I can increase my visibility as I try to move up into my career path. And it's also a good way to show your knowledge in terms of project management. And it also gives you the advantage of others who are working in project management but may not be certified. And I'll say, as a project manager, it's in terms of skills that I think are important. They're strong organizational, planning, communication, and written skills. And there's also special project management software that can help you organize complex projects. If you want to work in biopharma, I think it really helps to have a scientific background or degree so you can understand that the scientific data and discussions that are occurring at the different levels. And most recently, I found out that there's even a project management certification for high school students. So the Project Management Institute, which is the Global Institute for Project Managers, and for those who are certified, it's called PMI Project Management Ready. And I can share that with you, David, after the discussion. But it gives you the tools that you need for a range of career paths. It doesn't have to just be biotech, it could be high tech, health, different types of healthcare sectors, and it even works with you for your day-to-day school activities at school. And I think it just recently rolled out, but they actually have a certification for high school students. So that shows me that project management is expanding in terms of it's not just different industries, but also different groups. And I think it's pretty exciting that they're actually considering high school students and wanting to get them involved in this area as well. I know when you looked at my bio, you saw that I had been at Balmarin for quite some time. So why did I want to leave Balmarin? Well, I have been there for quite some time, and the company grew to, before I left, I think we had 2,000 employees. And when I started, we had 400 employees. And I really wanted a change. I wanted to work for a smaller company. I wanted to learn a new scientific area. And I heard that Sangamo was really working on exciting projects in genomics medicines. And this was a new area for me. And I would have the opportunity to build my own project management group. So I joined Sangamo in 2018. So there was a question I recall about what non-clinical is, and I'll just give a high-level definition of what non-clinical is. So in non-clinical, it involves the testing of the safety and efficacy of drugs before they are tested in humans. And usually these are done in animal studies that are regulated. Now, we don't conduct any of these studies at Sangamo. We work with what we call contract research organizations who provide these type of services. But again, it's really regulated. And these are studies that are required by the FDA before we even test in humans. So we have to do them there before we can even get approval to test in humans. And in my role at Sangamo, I've established non-clinical sub-teams, and they serve as a forum for planning and exchange of scientific ideas that allow us to get the drug into the clinic. As a project manager, I can honestly say there is not a typical day for me. Two of the programs I'm working on are to treat Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And these programs are with our collaborator. We collaborate with a company called Biogen, and we're working with them to develop drugs to treat Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And both of these are drugs that affect the central nervous system. I will say I usually have regularly scheduled meetings with my teams to discuss a project for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. but things can change pretty quick. For example, we may get data in from a study, and we may need to make a decision, and a meeting may pop up on my calendar. I may get a call from finance to look at budget and resourcing and how that will impact the deliverable. I may also have to deal with project changes. And a lot of times in dealing with project changes, I have to work with the team to make sure we communicate those changes in an appropriate manner to management. And I also work across groups, maybe in clinical, program management, and our manufacturing group. I work with other PMs, and we work together to resolve some project issues, or we work together to look at rolling out new initiatives. So those are just some of the things I do as a project manager. And as I say, my day is not typical. I'll say for Friday, it's usually light, but today is not a typical Friday. There are some things that came up that I've been pulled into. And so I have to really learn to to be adaptive and to adjust and really be empathetic to what's going on, because at the drop of a hat things can change, and that's one thing I've learned in working in development and when I compare it to working in research. And one of my most memorable moments when I started at Sangamo was I had the opportunity to work with a non-clinical sub team. We were working on an investigational new drug application, but this was to for another clinical study, and this was for one of our gene therapy programs. This was exciting because this was our first internal gene therapy program that we were going to move forward into the clinic. And right now, the program is in phase 1, 2, and it's pretty exciting because it looks like from the early look at the data that things are going well. So for me, that was exciting because, I had just joined Sangamo less than 2 months, and already I was asked to start working with this team to make sure we got the application to the FDA so we could initiate the clinical study. I'll say when I look back at my path or my career path, I wouldn't change anything. I'll say there have been some positive, negative experience. The most positive experiences is I've learned much more about science than I ever thought possible. I've had the opportunity to bring hope into the life of others and improve their lives. So for me, I mean, it's been awesome. And also just to be able to work with different groups, different companies, and really see how what you're working on to really see it to come to fruition. But I also say there have been some challenges, as with any opportunity. I've had experience with racial and gender biases, but I can honestly say if it were not for those who came before me, I would not have the opportunities I've had so far. And so again, as I mentioned, I would not take away anything from my journey. But before I close what I did, I just wanted to share a brief slide. So it kind of gives you a little bit visual of what project management in my role does. And then after that, I'll open it up for questions. So let me just do this. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? I'll just,
Yeah, looks good.
okay. 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 Oops. Okay. So the role of non-clinical project management is to provide project management leadership, experience, and expertise. And what I try to do is use best practices within our operations group to anticipate, communicate, as I mentioned before, and execute to meet our program and company objectives. And as I mentioned, working on programs like for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are one of those objectives. And as I mentioned before, project management involves a lot of communication. So I lead with what we call our non-clinical sub-team. That's what NCST stands for. And we have a non-clinical sub-team lead, which is usually a scientific lead. And we share knowledge with internal and external partners. As I mentioned, one of our external partners is Biogen, which is publicly known. And I also work strategically with our product development group, and they have their own set of project managers who are responsible for like the global strategy of, for example, our CNS program. And then, as I mentioned, monitor project budget and reporting progress to our accounting group. And the software I was talking about, and this is a glimpse of it. It's a project management software that helps you manage complex projects in terms of the timelines, in terms of when things start and finish, what type of things are involved in those type of tasks. And I work cross-functioning with other project managers, as I mentioned, to manage these timelines. And I also create what we have non-clinical studies I mentioned before, and we have what we call dashboards where we highlight or visualize those studies. So those are just some of the things I do as far as my project management role I wanted to share with you. And then one thing we're always looking at is how we manage risk. Let's say, for example, we have some unforeseen data from one of our studies, and it may have a negative impact on our program. So how do we manage that risk? So that's where the PM comes in and works with the team. And then lastly, we're always looking at ways to, well, I'm looking at ways to for continuous improvement and best practices. And one way we do that is we conduct the lessons learned. I did that with one of my teams a couple years ago to look at how things went and how can we do things better. And that's a continuing conversation we're having, always looking at ways to improve in order to increase our efficiency and how we do things. So again, I just wanted to highlight those are just a few of the things I do as a project manager or at Sangamo. So I'll stop sharing with that. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with you. And there were not questions that were not covered in part of my presentation. I welcome, you can ask those now if you like.
So we do have one from Alex, one from Joanna. Can you see them?
Yeah, I see. Let's see. White. Okay. Oh, I see a few more than,
Yeah.
okay. Someone
Alex.
asked, what does PKU mean? So PKU is phenylketonuria. And basically, individuals don't have the phenylalanine, which is an enzyme in our body. They're not able to break it down. So it accumulates in our body and it causes mental incapacity. So that's what PKU is, phenylketonuria. And if you look on the back of the gum, it'll say it contains phenylalanine. And that's what it means, that people who have PKU should not even chew gum, which is really unfortunate. Did that answer your question?
We actually studied some of these PKU and
Oh,
cystic
you did?
fibrosis last year, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, but it's been a while, so.
Okay. 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 What was that? What were the other questions, David? I'm just trying to look.
Let's see. We have. I don't know if any were sent to you in private. But we have one from Alex.
Okay.
What types of therapeutics are currently being worked on at Sangamo, and what
Hmm.
are these therapeutics mostly targeting, or is it broad?
Yeah, good question. A lot of them, as I mentioned, we have two collaborations, one with Biogen and one with Novartis. Now, I don't work on the one with Novartis, but both of them are targeting CNS. As I mentioned, with Biogen is Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. With Novartis, I believe they're also CNS disease. So that's really one of our focuses. We're also looking at the one I mentioned before. I don't think I get the name, but it's Fabry disease, and that's a gene therapy. So Fabry disease is actually the accumulation of an enzyme called it's GLA. I'm forgetting the name of it, but again, that's one where the body is not able to break it down, and so it accumulates and it can cause issues with kidney and your heart. It's a rare genetic disorder, and I believe affects women more than men because I think it's X-linked.
Is
So
it
those are,
alpha galactosidase?
yes,
That's what it
alpha-galactosidase,
is. I
correct?
thought it
Yeah,
said it there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're also working on some other programs internally in terms of gene therapy, and looking at, how do we further our gene editing capabilities.
So we have another one from
Mhm.
Joanne. So what made you decide to transition to Sangamo after 11 years? And then how are your experiences with both of these workplaces similar or different?
Yeah, for me, the transition came. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to work at a smaller company. As I mentioned, Bomberin had 2,000 employees when I left. They had 400 when I started, and I liked the small company. And the reason I like the small company, you wear a lot of hats, you learn a lot, and you're really able to influence change. I think once a company gets big, processes are already put in place. And I had the opportunity to influence change at Bomberin, but it got to the point where things are put in place, and I like to be able to build things. Like, for example, moving to Sangamo, I have the opportunity to build my own project management group. So that was my impetus for moving from Bomber to Sangamo. Actually, another thing was a shorter commute. And oddly enough, Sangamo was across the street from the elementary school I attended. So
Let's see. We have one from Autumn.
mhm,
How has quarantine affected your work? And have you worked with stem cells in order to develop new therapeutics?
yeah. Quarantine, we have a lot more meetings, I'll be honest, and a lot of Zoom meetings. But it's also given me the opportunity to learn more about my team members. I mean, sometimes we have kids and dogs coming into meetings, and it's really helping me to learn how to be more empathetic. And I think we honestly, because of the quarantine, we have a stronger connection as a team. So there are some positives to that. As far as stem cells, that's not something that Sangamo works on. We're like gene therapy, gene editing, cell therapy. That's where our focus is because we're really focused on being a genomics medicines company.
Okay. We have a question from Jed. So how was your time at Davis?
I enjoyed it. I'll tell you, it's changed. It's been a while since I've been at Davis. It has changed quite a bit. As I mentioned, I was there a few years ago for an event, and honestly, I wasn't. The campus looked different, you know. But my experience was really positive. They're very supportive. Two of my closest friends I met at Davis, and we're still connected today. It's really a great school. The weather was great. The location for me, um, and as I said, it was when I was there, it felt like a college town. But going back, I feel like it's really evolved. And of course, I rode my bike everywhere while I was Davis. But it was a positive experience for me.
Let's see. We have from Sandra. Are there any skills that you either gained or really utilized during your time as a project manager?
I would say the skill to really listen to your team members, especially when things are challenging with the programs, really being able to just sit with them and listen. It's sometimes it's not even about the project. It may just being there for them. I find that very important, and really being able to communicate what's going on to management. I mean, I'm working on a project right now where we're looking at data. So we got to figure out how to message to management in a way that shows that we're thinking things through. And also, I would say some of the technical skills, like I mentioned, some of the software we're using as project managers, I think that's a very important to learn. And I will say, in the industry of being a project manager, it's helped me to have a science background, so I can kind of help guide those discussions when we're in those meetings. That's been useful for me. I wouldn't say it's necessary because I know people who work in the industry don't necessarily have a science degree. They may have a different type of degree, but for me, it's helped me because it gives me a broader understanding of the scientific aspects of it.
Yeah. We have a question from Rory. So I guess this is sort of related to what was Berkeley like? What was your experience like
Oh,
there?
yeah, thanks for I during my transition when I was hoping to get out of the lab, what I decided to do was go through a certification course through clinical research, conduct, and management through UC Berkeley Extension. And these were courses I actually took over the weekend. It was for extended period. and it was a good experience for me. I actually met a number of people through that program, but participating in that certification gave me more exposure to the clinical side of things. So I enjoyed it. I learned quite a bit.
Okay, we have two from Cameron. Let's see. What's the second company that you worked with after Biogen? And then he wants to know the brain disease that you mentioned.
I meant the
Okay.
company I have to work with because he said that Sagamo is working with Biogen and another company.
Hmm.
That's the other name.
Oh,
Oh, but yeah, sure. Sangamo is working with Biogen on for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and then I'm working for with Novartis.
How do you
Um,
uh, how do you spell that?
Novartis. So they have a collaboration with Novartis as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and I can provide the information to David, but I can put it. So it's and oddly enough, Novartis took over Chiron while I was there. But yeah, it's biotech industry is such a small world. You never know what company you'll end up working for or who you're working with. Right now at Sangamo, I'm working with my manager. I used to work with her at Marin. She was my manager and she was in a different role. But you never know who you're going to end up working with. And I've worked with several people who from Marin who are at Sangamo now, and a couple of them were at Chiron. So you just you never know.
yeah. There's a lot of movement. Bio,
Yes,
biotech in the Bay is really big,
it
but
is.
it's also a lot smaller than you'd
It,
think in terms of who you end
yeah,
up working with.
it is. And so it's really good to network and keep those relationships open because you never know.
Okay, I guess Charmaine has a question. So,
Mhm.
was there anything in particular that drew you to Sangamo? Like, other than maybe, is it just the size of the company, or?
Well, it was what they were working on with the gene therapy. At Marin, it was we worked on at they were early on in gene therapy, but they were more like what we call enzyme replacement. So it was that sort of where basically it's more like a infusion of the drug into the 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 clinical patient. And so this the one reason is because gene therapy is it's very it's a new area that is getting a lot of attention now. A lot of companies are moving into it, and I wanted to diversify my skill set and learn more about that and gene therapy and gene editing. And now we're looking at we're even doing some cell therapy. So that was why I wanted to move it to Sangamo to give me that experience. I wanted to broaden my skill set in terms of the scientific area.
Very nice. Okay, it's 12:59. So this
Oh
is
wow.
to all of the students. If you have a question that you've not yet gotten answered, now's the time to do it. Does anyone have anything that they would like Estelle to address before we give her a rounding applause? Okay, we'll give it a little bit of time, but Estelle, thank you again for the talk. Uh, really appreciate it. I think we should, everyone, let's give her a hand. Normally, what they do is they have a little icon that they do applause for. Fiona says thank you. So, for the rest of you guys and gals, if you have questions that weren't addressed, you can send them to me, and then what I'll do is I will forward them to Estelle. I
Yeah.
may give you her email address, and you can just directly address her yourself.
Yeah, you want to connect with me through LinkedIn or send like the email. Happy to answer questions if things come up later that you would like answers to. I'm available.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, thank you again. I guess I'll reach out. I'll send you an email as a follow up to
Okay.
say thank you and a couple things.
Okay.
And everybody else, enjoy your spring break. Remember that and this is to the students, you guys have that assignment that's due tomorrow by 5. Get outside, go on a walk, enjoy the sunlight, and I'll see everybody once we come back from the break.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye bye.